What is up, everybody? And with the release of Madam Web, I thought I'd do a Spider-Man tier video. I've never done a Spider-Man ranking video, a villains video, nothing like that. But I thought I'd do a tier video for you just to let you know what my thoughts are with the Spider-Man movie franchise. Now, when I'm talking about movies, I'm talking live action only, for the exception of the two Spider-Verse movies that came out. And I have not seen Morbius. I refuse to see it. So that's not going to be in this tier list ranking. But I think a lot of you are going to be pleasantly or maybe upset at my thoughts with some of these movies. Some of them I think are some of the best comic book movies ever made. And some of them I think are complete garbage. And I think you'd be shocked on which ones they are. But again, I want to do this video for everybody. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe and like the video. My name is Rudy. I provide reviews from a Gen Xer's point of view. And a lot of these movies I saw in the theater, including the original Spider-Man. And I'll start there. For those who are too young to remember, that Spider-Man movie, when it came out in 2001, it was a huge event because X-Men had just come out in 2000. And that kind of brought a lot of validity to the comic book genre. Again, it was really campy. In the 90s were really big with the comic book movies. Batman was the biggest franchise, I believe, at the time. Batman Forever was the highest grossing Batman film of all time. But there was a take, and it was all DC. So now Marvel was getting into the game. We had Blade that came out, I believe, in 97, 98, then X-Men. And we finally were getting a Spider-Man film. Everybody was excited about it. Spider-Man was becoming a worldwide icon. And believe it or not, I shit you not, there was a time when nobody knew who Peter Parker was. There's a time that nobody knew that Spider-Man and Peter Parker were one of the same. Believe it or not. So I kind of felt like this. I was getting attention that people, hey, you're a comic book nerd, right? I'm like, yeah, I grew up with him. Tell me about Spider-Man. The movie's coming out. It looks really great. I'm like, oh yeah, the Green Goblin, blah, blah, blah. I felt important and finally seen for the first time in my life. So again, Spider-Man, the original one with Tobey Maguire and directed by the great Sam Raimi, was a big deal. So again, with the Spider-Man film, part one, I'm going to put this as Stan the Man. And let me go ahead and kind of rewind here. The Stan the Man is going to be S tier category for some of the best films of all time. Then, of course, we have A for great, B for good, C for mid, D for bad, and then we have what the fuck. Other thing I'd like to add about the Spider-Man film, the original one, I wish you would have been there. If you're old enough, you remember this, but the scene at the end, it felt like a fun comic book movie. But I swear to God, that last scene where the Green Goblin is just beating the hell out of Spider-Man, it felt scary. The tone in the theater changed. All the kids in the theater like, oh my God, it felt like a scary movie. It felt like Sam Raimi got the reins of the movie. Let me just make it a little scary for the kids that there's consequences to being a hero. That's the way it felt like. And the tone in the theater completely changed. And I still feel out of all the Spider-Man films that have come out since then, nobody has had the balls to be that dark anymore. And that's what I miss about Spider-Man and that particular storytelling and method, because it gets stuck to the core story roots of Spider-Man, just being a kid with no money, struggling just like every one of us, but still making time to save people. That's what made him so relatable. And I believe Sam Raimi captured that with part one. That's why I have it as Stan the Man, one of the best films ever in the Spider-Man franchise. Next, and these are not in order, I have the Amazing Spider-Man that came out, and we have Andrew Garfield, who plays Spider-Man. And believe it or not, this one, in my opinion, when it comes to Andrew Garfield, in my opinion, he is the best actor to don the Spider-Man suit. As a matter of fact, that one scene where all three Spider-Men showed up in Spider-Man Far From Home, whatever the movie was, when they're all on top of that church and they're all telling their stories about their Uncle Ben and what happened, I almost broke into tears when Andrew Garfield started telling his story. As a matter of fact, his movies are really the only ones that give me to cry or get emotional, because he's such a great actor. And you can feel the pain in his acting, in his face. You just feel the emotion of what Spider-Man's going through and what he lost. And with this one, he fought the Lizard. Granted, the villain could have been better, but I love the authenticity of Spider-Man. When he's swinging, you can see the ripples and wrinkles of his suit. It looks authentic. It looks real. When he's fighting, it's torn. You can see his skin underneath. It looks real. And that's one of the main complaints I have with the Tom Holland films, is that it looks fake. Every time Spider-Man's in a scene, it looks completely CGI. There's no authenticity to it. So I'm kind of checked out when I see that. But with Andrew Garfield, I think that's the most realistic portrayal of Spider-Man. I love how, as far as emotions weigh at the end of this particular film, where he's injured on his leg and everybody and the crane operator start helping him with that one scene to get Spider-Man to Oscorp. That scene gets me crying every time. What the Amazing Spider-Man did and what the original Sam Raimi films did is that they made New York a character. New York was part of the storytelling. You know, that one scene when Doc Ock is in the train and all the New Yorkers get in front of him. You want him, you got to get through us. That was Joey Diaz. But or at the end where the end of part one, the original one, where everyone's on the bridge and they're trying to distract the Green Goblin. If you mess with him, you mess with all of us. Same thing with the Amazing Spider-Man. New York was a character who, again, despite all the hatred he got in the press, there were still a group of people who knew he was trying to do good. And it captures that beautifully in this film. And that's one thing that the Tom Holland films completely miss. And for this Amazing Spider-Man, I'm giving it an A. It's a great origin story. I love it. My son, who is he's 17, who grew up with all the Spider-Man films, but he was about 7 or 8 when this movie came out. And he loves this movie, this Spider-Man, over all the others. It connected with him. I do too. It connected with me. So that's why I have it at A as a great movie. Again, these aren't in order. I have Spider-Man 2. This one, oh my God. I remember this one getting a lot of recognition because Roger Ebert, who was a critic that I loved and followed all through the 90s, he said this was one of the best films he's ever seen. One of the best comic book films he ever seen. So this particular film, I think, does great what a lot of the other films didn't do as well. Well, some came close. But this particular film, what it did is it just made Spider-Man such a, you felt bad for him. The first 40 minutes of this film, you just feel completely heartbroken for him. Nothing's going right. He's getting fired from his job. He's doing the right thing as Spider-Man, fighting the good fight, but he lost his job. Mary Jane is getting married with somebody else. His best friend is angry at Spider-Man. He doesn't know that Peter's Spider-Man yet. And they have that huge falling out where he slaps him at that one party when he's drunk. And you feel like, my God, I mean, as a hero and a protagonist, you feel so close to him and you just want him to come out and win. And then you have such a great villain in Doc Ock, who is a great mentor to Peter. And you can see the good that he's trying to do, but then he's consumed with just the voices in his head with these robotics taking over him and the fall from grace that he had. And again, Sam Raimi going in, you know what? I'm going to take about 4 minutes of the film and make it a scary movie. That whole scene, the operation scene, where they're trying to remove the tentacles from Doc Ock and those tentacles kill everybody, is pretty frightening. And that was amazing. Again, we need more of that in the superhero genre. But Spider-Man 2, in my opinion, is one of the great films of all time. So I'm going to have it as Stan the Man. Such a great film, man. Such a great film. And next on the list is Spider-Man Homecoming. This one, again, 2017. Spider-Man's finally in the MCU. He already debuted in Civil War. That was a fun comic book event. We were all excited when he came out and had that big battle and stole Cap's shield. And now he's got his own movie. This one was a lot of fun. And I believe this one, I had a lot of hope for the next 2 movies because arguably Vulture in here, Michael Keaton, who, again, I love Michael Keaton as well, the original Batman. He is arguably one of the best Spider-Man villains of all the films. But the one con that I have about Spider-Man Homecoming is that it's not a standalone Spider-Man film in a sense, because every movie that Disney made with Tom Holland, they were constantly just throwing in our face and reminding us about Iron Man and the Avengers and the whole universe. And I got sick of it, to be completely honest. In this particular film, Iron Man is a relevant presence. He's a mentor. He pops up every now and then. And I just did not like that. Disney was kind of setting up Spider-Man to be like an Iron Man Jr. They even gave him star technology as part of his suit, which I didn't like at all. Spider-Man is a brilliant young scientist. He can make it his own self, just like the Spider-Man video game on the PS5. But just the presence of Iron Man, the constant reminder of that whole universe was just, I didn't like it. So this one, Spider-Man Homecoming, as fun as it was, as the great villain that it is, I'm going to give it a C for mid. It was okay. Spider-Man Far From Home. This is the one where you went on a school trip to Venice or something like that. I saw it once. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like it at all. I thought it was very silly and very dumb. It wasn't, again, it was more or less a Spider-Man, Iron Man Jr. scene. I remember that one scene where with John Favreau's in the plane and he's messing with star technology, making a suit. I'm like, God damn, when are they gonna stop shoehorning Iron Man in these movies and just let Spidey just be Spidey? And Mysterio was more or less, I mean, an okay villain. I didn't feel no stakes were involved. I didn't feel like Spider-Man was in danger in any way compared to the Sam Raimi films that I spoke about earlier. And again, star technology was involved in the film. It was a plot point in the film. He had glasses and he had the entire infrastructure of Tony's weapons at his disposal. So again, it's like, they're constantly just reminding us about Iron Man, and it didn't feel that way. Again, it didn't feel any danger. I felt no stakes. It felt like a fun movie, very forgettable. I didn't even buy it, and I bought Homecoming. So this one, I'm going to say, is, again, mid. I wasn't impressed with it whatsoever. And again, I know that may upset a lot of the viewers. And again, I don't mean to come off pretentious. I don't mean to insult you. But again, when you have Sam Raimi films that were just so devoted to the comic book and keeping the source material as true as possible, and having stakes involved in the story. And then you go to Disney and it feels completely safe, and just like there's nothing really that's going to be, there's nothing that's really going to hurt Peter in these films. It really takes away from the film and the drama. You don't feel that he's in danger at any point. And that's my main complaint with the Tom Holland films. Now, this one, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, this one wasn't as good as The Amazing Spider-Man, but it's not as bad as everybody made it out to seem. I will die on this hill. And I remember just Twitter and just the hate this poor film was getting. It was like people were boycotting it before it even came out because everybody wanted Spider-Man to go to the MCU. And I truthfully believe that campaign and that hatred toward this film before it even came out is what canceled the trilogy. They were setting it up for us to have a Sinister Six plot in part 3. And we never got that. I don't know if we ever will. And it really just kind of screwed Andrew Garfield because he was a great Spider-Man and everybody involved was doing a great job. But again, I just think the fandom of the MCU just wanted him to go to the MCU. And that's ultimately what happened with Civil War. And this series was canceled. But again, this one is good. It's not as bad as what everybody says. Again, Andrew Garfield still the show as the best thing in the film. New York is again a character in the film. And again, it has the emotional death of Gwen Stacy, which again, I've seen people share that on TikTok. People comment on it. It's heartfelt and it's sad. So again, this one I'm going to say is good. All right. Next we have Venom. Venom. You know what? It was silly. Did I buy it? No. Have I seen it since I saw it the first time? No. It was very forgettable. It was like it felt like a parody in a way, but a silly parody done right. Cause it was like, in my opinion, I thought it was self-aware and what it was trying to do. And they were going for a campy style. I'm like, okay, I can live with that. It was fine. So again, I don't remember much about the film. I just love the back and forth between Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote and how that exchange was going constantly back and forth. It was funny and comedic at times. The whole origin story was fun. The ending was great. But again, Venom, it's very forgettable. And I remember at that point not having a lot of faith in Sony because again, I wanted just somebody else to have the Spider-Man rights to make a Spider-Man movie. And we're thinking Spider-Man was going to make a cameo at the time. That never happened. But with Venom, this one, it's bad. What I have to be honest, it's bad. It's not good. And that's all I got to say about Venom. What else is there to say? The CGI is great. Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of a given with most films nowadays, but it's okay. No, it's bad. It's bad what I try to say. On to the next, we have Spider-Man 3 with Sam Raimi. And again, this is the one where we had a lot of sort of Sony interference, studio interference. This one, I remember seeing it at the theater. I really enjoyed it. I remember some of the CGI being distracting in some scenes of the movie. But again, just seeing for the first time on the big screen in a movie, just the symbiote, the black Spider-Man suit was just like, oh my God, we couldn't believe it. We're just so in shock and just loved it. Yes, Venom was kind of shoehorned in there. I think the film would have been a solid film if it just was just a Sandman in the film. It would have been solid. But again, you can tell that Venom was just thrown in there. The whole casting of him, I forget the name of the actor, the guy from the 70s show, he played Venom. It could have been a better casting with that, in my opinion. But way too many characters, too many plot points. But again, still a decent film. And a great ending to the trilogy. I know Sam Raimi wasn't done with that. They were going to make a part 4 with Anne Hathaway as a Black Cat. That would have been cool. But anyway, this was a good film. I enjoyed it. Again, not the best of the trilogy. It was a decent send-off for the Spider-Man film. And of course, that whole sequence was Tobey Maguire just walking down with the symbiote infecting him. And he's kind of being cool and sassy and jazzy. Oh, that's ridiculous, man. But anyway, this particular film, I'm going to say it's good. Again, not as great as the other two, but it's good. It's okay. Next is Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. And you know what? This one, I saw it 3 times in the theater. It gave me goosebumps. This is one of the best Spider-Man films ever made. One of the best. How often do we get goosebumps when we get the origin scene where the protagonist, the character that has been down on his luck, and he's finally figuring out who he needs to be. And in that whole scene with Miles jumping off the building when he's falling, but they flip the camera and he's ascending. Goosebumps. The music, everything. This film was fucking amazing. And of course, Nick Cage in the film, everybody involved Spider-Man. That's how you do it, Sony. I find it so odd that Sony, you know, they have different groups, I'm sure, in the animated group and then the live action group. The people in this group, the Spider-Verse group, are knocking it out of the park. They need to have control of all the Spider-Man catalog and all the movies that go forward because they know what they're doing. They know how to tell a story. And this is fucking amazing. One of the best soundtracks ever. I love it. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is going to get Stan the Man, top tier. Next is Madam Web. I'm going to put it down as what the fuck. I don't want to waste another minute on that film. I have nothing else to say about it. If you want to see what I had to say about it, check out my review up there on the link above. Okay, next is Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. This is what I call mouth herpes. This is trash. This is, again, meddling with the studio, not knowing what they can do with an IP, and just trying to capture some of that fandom and that momentum that the MCU has done for Spider-Man. This is absolute garbage. And the treatment of Carnage, and I remember playing Maximum Carnage on the Super NES back when I was a kid in the 90s and being actually terrified because I read the story in the comic books, the whole separation anxiety comic book line. Can you imagine if somebody, like, let's just say the way they handled the Joker, can you imagine a graphic novel movie rated R with Carnage? Imagine how fucking awesome that would be. And now imagine, no, we're never going to get it. That's never going to be a reality. And that sucks. And that's why I can't stand that, you know, there's studios who own these properties and IPs that don't know what they're doing. We're never going to get that. Needless to say, Venom is what the fuck. It's a waste of time. I saw it once. I'll never give it another cent of my time or dollar. You know what I was trying to say. Next is the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is Across the Spider-Verse. This one was really good. I liked it. I have to admit, I enjoyed part 1 more than part 2 because this one, again, it didn't feel like a complete story. Again, spoilers, it ends on a cliffhanger. And more or less, they made 2 movies in one. I totally get that as far as management. That makes complete sense. But again, the story in itself, it adds more complexity to the Spider-Verse. You have Spider-Man 2099. And it being kind of the villain in this particular film. And it makes sense. You understand his motivations and why he's trying to get Miles to do certain things. Again, I don't want to spoil it since it just came out. But again, visually, it's beautiful. I remember it feeling a little too busy for me. But again, as far as films, comparing it to the first one, I love the first one a whole lot more. This one, again, it felt incomplete. And I know purposely it's done that way. And once the part 3 comes out, it's going to feel a whole lot more of a solid piece of storytelling. I totally get that. But for me right now, I'm going to say it's B. It was good. I didn't buy it. Usually if I love a film, I'll buy it. I haven't bought this one particularly yet because, again, I want to wait till the other one comes out so I can watch the whole cohesive story when it's all said and done. Again, Morbius, I hadn't seen that yet, and I didn't know there was an editor's cut for Spider-Man 3, but that takes us to the last one. Spider-Man 3 in the Tom Holland trilogy, No Way Home. I will admit this was a great movie experience. Just to see all 3 Spider-Man. You guys remember how it was in 2021. We weren't 100% sure if they were going to be on there. There were rumors, of course, and then I believe John Campea just spoiled it for everybody. That motherfucker. I love what he does. John Campea, he's a great guy. I like what he does. I hope he's feeling better. But he fucked it up for everybody by spoiling the film, and I really got mad at that. And that's kind of led to my whole motivation. When it comes to trailer spoilers and trailer breakdowns, I avoid them. I'll do one teaser trailer, and that's the teaser trailer reaction. I'll react to that, but I won't watch any other trailers after the fact because I don't want anything spoiled anymore. I feel that this would have been a momentous, wonderful movie experience if I didn't already know that the other 2 Spider-Man were going to be in the film. I think we should all advocate to push away against that, push away from that, because can you imagine the experience we all would have had if we didn't know? I mean, granted, the theater kind of erupted into applause when Andrew Garfield showed up. I did too. But again, to not know would have been better. And I think we should strive for that experience versus what we do and try to break down every single frame like we're doing with Deadpool 3 and Wolverine. Stop. Just leave some to the imagination. Let's go in there with a blank slate. With today's internet, we're not going to get that. But anyway, that was a big spoiler for me. But again, this was a fun film. And if you ask me, the best one, because again, we actually had some loss. Spider-Man lost Aunt May in this particular one. I didn't agree with Spider-Man taking his most fierce villains, his arch nemesis, back to his apartment. I didn't think that made sense. I didn't think that Doctor Strange fucking up with the timeline and altering so many realities and multiverses just to get Spider-Man's friends into fucking college made any sense. I'm like, that's quite a momentous risk for Doctor Strange to do. Right? Do you agree with me? I mean, I saw that. I'm like, that's kind of irresponsible of him to do that as a gatekeeper of the mystic arts and blah, 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 whatever else. You're going to alter every reality in the planes of the universe just so this guy can get his friends in the administration to forget about who his friends are so they can get into a school. That's fucking stupid if you ask me. So again, there were some plot points that were completely stupid if you ask me. But again, just the novelty of seeing William Dafoe and everybody come back in the roles as the villains that we saw back in the early 2000s, and seeing the three Spider-Man together fight villains. Again, for me, it was the camaraderie and the chemistry between Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire that was completely fun. As a matter of fact, I didn't buy this particular film, but just the camaraderie and the clips that you see on YouTube of them just talking, I love that. I want more of that. And I hope we get a sequel. I hope we get to see them all on the screen again, but done in a better way. The ending was heartfelt because more or less everybody forgot about him, even though Mary Jane, everybody that we knew forgot about Peter Parker, which I find kind of odd because yes, her memory is gone. Everybody forgot about him, but all the text messages and photos of Mary Jane and Peter Parker on her phone are still there. So there's a huge plot point, and that was lazy, right? I'm like, okay, she can just check her phone and she's going to see all these calls to this one guy, all these texts to this one guy. So technically, yeah, she forgot, but that's going to just be a dead giveaway. Why didn't they think about that? Anyway, great novelty, one of the greatest movie experiences I've had in quite some time. But this one, again, I'm going to give it a B for it being good. And those are my thoughts on the Spider-Man movies. Again, I know a lot of you may be upset with some of my selections and my thoughts on a lot of these, but again, I'm an older guy and I just prefer some maturity and some tone in the film be taken seriously. Not everything has to be a joke. You don't have to throw like a roll of bread at Andrew Garfield because you're scared of him. Why'd you throw bread at me? That was like a stupid exchange. But anyway, I just prefer more of a serious take on these films. Yes, you can have some funny moments. Like I think Sam Raimi did great and the Amazing Spider-Man films did great. You can have some jokes in there. But again, the tone itself should be serious because this is a superhero movie. Lives are at stake along with the protagonist. And I think once we capture that element again with that overall feel, the sky's the limit. And right now, I have no faith in any studio right now when it comes to Disney or Sony. So, oh God, I don't know what the plans are for Spider-Man, but I'm glad we have these films to revisit. That's kind of like a solemn ending. God damn, Rudy. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tier ranking video. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe, leave some comments down below. What are your picks as far as tier rankings for the Spider-Man films? Put them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And of course, I will respond to as many as I can. But again, I appreciate your time, everybody. Thank you for watching. Please take care. God bless. Live long and prosper. I'm out.